Hawkeye's role in the Avengers is actually pretty interesting. The film starts off in a research facility, where we see members of Cheel conducting experiments on the Tesseract. You might remember the Tesseract is a cube-shaped object that functions as a portal to different parts of space. It also contains within it the Space Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. The film cuts to Nick Fury making his way into the facility, and he approaches Dr. Selvig, asking him where Clint Barton is, to which he responds, "The Hawk? Up in his nest as usual." It is at this moment that we see Hawkeye, peering down from one of the upper levels, making him the first Avenger that we actually see on camera. Nick Fury scolds Hawkeye, asking him why he isn't watching the Tesseract. Hawkeye responds by saying, "I see better from a distance." So there are a few important things to take away from these opening lines. The first is that Hawkeye is used to hitting targets from very far away, and he's now at the point where he actually sees better the further away he is, or the higher above ground he is. Right away, the film is acknowledging his accuracy and his precision. The second, more subtle takeaway is that Nick Fury must have an immense amount of trust in Hawkeye if he would leave him in charge of watching the Tesseract. We get the sense that not only is Hawkeye a reliable agent, but also a loyal friend. As they observe the Tesseract, Fury wonders if there has been any activity. Hawkeye responds by telling Fury that the Tesseract is a lot like a doorway to the other side of space, and doors open from both sides. Hawkeye's intuition is proven correct when Loki suddenly emerges from a portal and begins attacking the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Loki carries with him a scepter that contains within it the Mind Stone, another of the 6 Infinity Stones. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Mind Stone, it basically does exactly what you would think. It allows the user to take control over the hearts and minds of others. So when Loki arrives, he holds the scepter up to Hawkeye's chest. The power of the Mind Stone enters Hawkeye's chest, turning his eyes an abnormal shade of blue, meaning that he is now under Loki's full control. It is clear that Loki chose Hawkeye because of his positive character traits. Again, Hawkeye is resourceful, he's loyal, he's intuitive, he's precise. Loki knows that these attributes could be exploited for his own evil goals. Later in the movie, Loki and Hawkeye travel to Germany in search of an element known as iridium. As Loki confronts Heinrich Schaefer, Hawkeye makes his way towards the safe containing the iridium. On his way, he silently and methodically takes out several guards with his bow. I think this scene does a pretty good job at illustrating what a valuable asset Hawkeye is to Loki. Not only does he know the exact resources needed, but he's able to execute an effective plan of action to obtain the iridium. Perhaps the most salient aspect of Hawkeye's role in this film is his relationship with Black Widow. We learn that the two of them have a long history together and that they have fought many battles side by side. While interrogating Loki, Natasha reveals that before she joined S.H.I.E.L.D., she was a trained assassin with, quote, blood on her ledger. In other words, Natasha had killed many people around the world. In her own words, "I had a very specific skill set. I didn't care what I used it for." So Hawkeye was recruited by S.H.I.E.L.D. to kill Natasha, but ultimately he had empathy and spared her life. This created an inextricable bond between them that would carry on for the rest of the series. Natasha's main purpose from that moment would be to wipe the blood off of her ledger and obtain redemption. Natasha feels like she owes Hawkeye a tremendous debt. She feels like she owes him her life, which will of course come into play later on down the line. When Hawkeye attacks the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, him and Natasha begin engaging in hand-to-hand combat, each of them showing off their fighting skills. Ultimately, Natasha hits Hawkeye in the head, which causes his mind to recalibrate, and he eventually comes to his senses. When Hawkeye is finally back to normal, he asks Natasha, "Do you know what it's like to be unmade?" She responds with, "You know that I do." Natasha is referring to her experience in the Red Room, where she was brainwashed to be a Russian assassin. Hawkeye proceeds to ask Natasha how many agents he killed while he was under the control of Loki. This question speaks volumes about Hawkeye's character. It shows that his primary concern is the safety of other people. Much like Natasha, he knows that he will have to carry the burden of this guilt for the rest of his life. One of the things that bonds them together is that they were both at some point under the control of nefarious forces, making decisions that were not their own. Throughout the film, Hawkeye makes use of his arrows in many creative ways. When he first invades the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, he uses a bomb arrow to gain access to the carrier. He also uses what seems like a microchipped arrow in order to shut down the carrier engines, causing the carrier to go into freefall. During the final battle, Hawkeye uses many other trick arrows in addition to the explosive arrows. At one point, he even uses one of his arrows to make a grappling hook so that he could swing to safety. He also has the ability to hit his targets without looking. So to wrap things up, I just wanted to highlight one of the things that I absolutely loved about Hawkeye's role in the final battle. There's one shot in particular where we see him helping scared citizens out of a bus. You see, Hawkeye doesn't have a magic hammer, or a suit made of iron, or a shield made out of vibranium. He can't fly through the air like the Hulk. All he can do is help innocent people get to safety, and that's exactly what he does. In a way, he's the most human out of all the Avengers. To paraphrase Jeremy Renner at 2019's Comic-Con, Hawkeye is a superhero without superpowers, and that means everyone can be a superhero.